All right, guys. It's been several months again in the making, but tends to be every summer kind of thing that Nick leaves to go abroad.
It's like the teachers get off work and then they fucking disappear. We're still in the same grind. Like, okay, Thursday at 8:00. No, I can't. I got this.
Yeah.
And Nick starts like 3 weeks before school ends because it's band concert, end of school, band concert. You know,
And Spain. Yep.
Spain, Portugal, Swaziland, Lesotho, Sri Lanka.
So I know a lot of people did shit over the summer, but the burning question I have is, did Larson drop the 50 cents for the Carnal Forge CD, or did he walk away?
No, I bought it. Totally bought
It was in the scuffed section, as the sticker says scuffed. So you take a 50-cent gamble. It plays all the way through.
it. Yeah, I also found an Earthless Alive at Roadberry CD for, I think it was $7.
Wow, yeah, that's a good, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't even know it existed.
That Roadburn, the concerts, you can find a lot of bands that put stuff out from that like fest, and it's usually all quality stuff. So
yeah.
So just breaking news for the viewers here. Jason Larson moved in with me. He's my
Yeah.
Is he doing the ironing now?
Yeah, he's ironing my underwear and my pillowcase every morning. It's really nice.
Yeah. Practicing on the bidet.
Yep.
I'm spreading
a lot of dishwashing.
Yeah, topless dishwashing. Yeah. Been great. Starches my underwear too. It's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, you look good though, Jason. Looks like you've been losing some weight and
oh, good. That's a good sign. No, I mean I've been hitting Planet Fatness during the summer. So
that's good.
Yeah.
I got to fit into those Anthrax sweats at some point.
Trying to cut down on the heroin.
That'll usually help you.
Yeah. But
well, maybe I'll get back on it.
This is we had this one kind of going. I can't remember again who.
Oh, geez, it's been like since
April.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was planned in April, scheduled for May, postponed till August.
Yeah. But I think I was just thinking, trying to look forward and think about ideas for new episodes. And I thought, anytime you think about a classic album, it's always older shit, which technically this would be older shit too, but
not for me. This isn't old shit. This is new shit.
Yeah. But it's like, anybody talks about classic albums, it's always like early 90s, 80s, 70s, stuff like that. So I figured let's go 20, 25 years, maybe back, 2000 on or whatever, and try to get 3 albums each that we think were like instant classics.
Yeah,
it's a good thing you cut it off at 25 because
he cut it off at 20 and Larson went like 22, 23 something.
Yeah, because I was gonna pick a virtual 11, but I was outside of the boundaries. So
that's I was strategic using the years so that, but
and I was gonna pick Skylark, but I decided against that.
I was gonna make you guys listen to virtual 11 again for this.
God,
I haven't listened to it since whenever that was, a year and a half ago. Whatever
that episode.
That was a dark episode for the dark years, man.
That was hilarious because I don't think Larson said one word the entire time. I think he sat there.
That episode was brutal.
And that's funny because that's probably like those are 2 of Larson's top 5 all-time bands, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Maiden is 2 and Priest is 3. Rush, Maiden, Priest. That will never.
Maybe it's that you didn't want to be ganged up on when you talked about love for those albums.
God, I was sweating that whole episode. I'm like, I have nothing to say, just blank.
Shooting blanks too.
That was a rough one.
Well, hopefully you had a little bit better.
Oh yeah, this one's good. Yeah.
No,
Thanks for
this was a good one. Even made me go back and listen to an album again that I'm going to have to sit through with Jason and Pat at Maryland Death Fest, watching a specific.
Oh yeah, a great album.
But I mean, it was really easy. I mean, I could have chosen 10 that I consider to be instant classics. These were 3 that just kind of off the top of my head. Actually, 2 were just like off the top of my head. And then the third one that I ended up also getting for Pat.
Yep.
I was kind of just listening to it one day and I thought, you know what? Why? Like, this is totally classic, because every time I want to listen to this band, I go back to the same album. It was their newest album, and we'll get to that later. But I don't know. Did you guys have? You definitely could have more than 3, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But none of mine would have been in the, probably post, I would say at least in the last 5 years. I wouldn't choose any of those as classic albums yet. I still have because you have one from like 21, right? Or something like that. So maybe just because the way my brain works, I can't call it a classic if it's that recent. So I think my most recent one is 28 or 2014 or something. So
I actually had a hard time with it because I was thinking about it. I was kind of confused with the assignment, kind of like Larson has been a couple times. Because I was thinking about it for me personally, but also ones that like I kind of perceived as across the board. A lot of other people just kind of, that considered it classic as well, whether that be mutual friends or through the internet when those albums came out, the amount of buzz they created and maybe how they took that band to another level. That's kind of how I was looking at it. So I was going through year by year looking at what came out, and I was making a list, and nothing. I mean, there were a few that were jumping out at me, but overall it was more, it's still hard for me. I think that's me, and also age, that like I have a hard time, because even though albums I picked are like 15 years old, they still don't seem like classics to me, because I always am rooted in thinking Number of the Beast, Ride the Lightning, The Legacy, shit like that, is that those are classic albums. But so it's more difficult.
well, that's why the word modern is in there, Kip or Pat. Modern classic.
And yeah, I was thinking of the word personal too, because I don't think any of my albums are considered classics out there in the metal community. I mean,
well, I would say one of yours is the one that fell outside the boundaries of the assignment.
okay.
I mean, in metal, I think, in that genre, like 100%, that's a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can. I don't know. Let's go, Pat. Why don't you go first with your number, with just one of them? Mine are.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with probably the one that's probably not. I would say probably the most disliked by you guys, I would imagine.
I just loved all of yours.
Oh, great. Well, I figured. This one was, God, what the hell year was this? This was 2007. This was a band that had I think 3 albums out before this. I was only familiar with the 3rd album, and I didn't really think it was all that great. I liked pieces of it, and there was a bit of buzz about the band with that 3rd album. And then when the 4th album came out, I wasn't going to give it the time of day. And then I think I listened to the first song on it, and I was like, holy shit, I love this. And it wasn't something I probably would have bought, like I said, based on that 3rd album, but that was Between the Buried and Me, Colors. After hearing that song, I ordered it, and I probably listened to that thing 100 times over the first month or 2 that I owned it. And it struck me as one of those albums, not unlike The Mantle, Light of Day, Day of Darkness. Granted, that's one song, but an album that's like a complete package that when I listen to it, I got to put it on and listen to it all the way through, because it kind of goes all over the place. You got piano, you got a little bit of black metal blasting here and there, you got death metal, you got this, I guess what they would call post-hardcore, you've got shredding from the guitarists, you got bluegrass, and it just kind of meanders all over the place. And you know, you got a bunch of songs on there that are like 8-12 minutes long, but to me that whole album just flies through start to finish. And that one was one that jumped out. That was the only one that I was like, yeah, this is a stone cold classic, because ever since that album I bought the couple after it, and I think one of their EPs, Nothing's Come Close. They even came near here about a year or so ago, and I thought, I didn't even go to the show because I was just like, nah, not interested. I'm basically in for that one album.
I had at one time the first two, so the self-titled and then the Silent Circus.
Yeah.
And they kind of came out of, you know, that early 2000s like metalcore craze.
Yeah.
But they were always a little different to me. I was surprised that you liked this as much as you did, that you would consider it a classic like that. Not because I didn't like it, because I actually was surprised that I did like it, because I went back and I was like, man, I wonder how those first two sound, like how I would, you know, what I would think about them now. And I went back and listened to them and I was like, just do it. But this one was, I mean, it just sounds like a completely different band. And it's like, you know what I thought listening to it? It's like listening to one of my albums of the year, but last year or the year before.
Oh, the Whitechapel?
Whitechapel. So whereas all the stuff prior to Kin, I thought was just trash deathcore. And then they put out Kin, and it was like, wow, guys can actually like write good shit. You know what I mean? Like they can actually play great guitar solos, and they can write super memorable songs. And it was almost like, you know, a super mature album. And that's, even though Colors doesn't sound like that, but that's kind of how I took the same thing.
Yeah, sure. Like I saw that, I saw them on that tour. When I saw they were coming, I was like, I'm going. It was an hour away in a small place, and I was like, I went in and I was like, I wonder if they're going to play the whole album. You know, that was my hope. I went in there, they played the whole album, and then they said that was Colors, and they walked off, and we're going to come on for an encore. And I said, fuck it, and I just left. I was like, I don't need to see the encore, because I got what I wanted. I wanted that, and I didn't want suddenly some shit from I knew they were playing, I think, the big song from Alaska and something else, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I just walked out. I was like,
yeah. And I know they really started making the rounds, especially their name was getting thrown around a lot of the prog circles and online and stuff. And I would see people talk about, you know, they never said the band name. They would always say BT Bam.
BTB, yeah.
And I was like, who the fuck is this band?
Yeah.
You know, it was like when somebody like that idiot from Banger said New Wabam instead of New Wave British Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
Who's BT Bam? You know, that some guy I worked with was like, oh, it's between Larry and me. But yeah, I mean, I actually, I'm going to listen to it again, and I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up picking this one up.
Yeah, to me, it's the only one. And don't be fooled, because a few years ago, 2 years maybe, they came out with Colors 2. I bought it. I've listened to it maybe twice, got grabbed by not a single thing on it. But I just love on this, like some of the guitar playing on this, solos and whatnot, harmonies are just fucking awesome. And I just love the beginning with that piano, and then it goes straight into the blasting. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, and then it just kind of, like I said, it meanders all over the place. And I use the term meander, but I don't mean it negatively. It's like it just takes you down different paths, and then all of a sudden it's mellow again, and the singing has great harmonies, and then it's rough, and I think it was probably my number 1 or number 2 album that year when it came out.
Yeah, I agree with you too, Pat. It's a classic piece of shit.
It's,
Just kidding. Larson and I spun this the first day he got here. And I just I hear this one, a band that I always avoided because of the terrible name. I think even worse than BT Bam is Between the Buried and Me, to be honest. So it's a band I've always avoided and I hadn't heard a note from until a couple days ago. And I was really actually digging it until if they could just drop the metalcore chugs, it would have been great. But it's like
Yeah.
the piano's great. The first song is going on 3 minutes in. I'm like, oh shit, this is pretty good. Then you just get chugga 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 chugga. I'm like, oh fuck, man, not that stuff. And then it'll go back to good stuff, and then another chugga 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 chugga. Like it just drove me insane. So if they could drop that, it would be a great album. But there's too much of that.
Musicianship is great. The vocals, it was like nails on a chalkboard. But yeah, I understand why Pat likes it. But you know,
not a gig.
Virtual 11 part 2.
yeah.
Yeah.
Vocally,
But yeah, the vocals I just can't deal with it.
well, here's the thing. I liked them, and I had no problem with them, and the reason is because they sounded more death metal to me and less metalcore-ish. And a lot of these bands, you know, I read things on them from kind of like their contemporaries, and I'll dig the music, and then the vocals to me are just like an instant turnoff because I can't stand metalcore vocals. And I know
Right.
What about crabcore? Can you do crabcore vocals?
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. But this was actually good. And I think, again, the comparison to Whitechapel Kin, it's because they were like, it just doesn't sound like metalcore, or like that album didn't sound like deathcore vocals to me. It was good. So, and I'm not ragging on these guys, but it literally sounded like they sat down and they were like, you know what, we're actually really into progressive stuff. Let's just try and write a good album. And they came up with this, and it's like, I was really blown away by it.
Yeah. Well, and I love when he's clean, when he's singing clean and he's kind of got that nasally high voice. It's just like super melodic to me. I love it. And then he goes back to the rough, and I'm okay with it. I don't think his vocals are great. The rough vocals, not 100% my style for rough vocals, but it totally fits with what they're doing. And
yeah,
like I said, they pull it off live too, like with ease.
In terms of everything, his vocals were like bottom of the list that I was focusing on, because everything else was just,
yeah, those guitarists are like awesome.
The bass player, I was like, shit, dude, these bass lines are, it was just good. So blew my mind. I know months ago, back in 1987, when we first said we were going to do this, now when you put that, I thought, Between the Buried and Me. All right. I'm like, I'll give it a shot. So, but
Jason has some notes on it.
Yeah, I do. They're from Raleigh, North Carolina, if anybody wanted to know that. Band formed in 2000 and Colors came out in 2007. And dude, if you like those death metal core vocals, this is the album for you.
Thanks, I'll check him out.
Yeah. And if you like metalcore breakdowns,
I would say anybody that is into death metal, like this is how progressive death metal to me should sound. Like, it's progressive music, death metal's there, it had a lot of different influences. This blows away a lot of the tech death and progressive death I hear nowadays, where it's just noodling and there's no point to the songs. Like this did meander, as you said, but it kept you interested, and in my opinion. And
yeah, the turns, they don't linger long.
Yeah.
And just when you think like, okay, I'm done with this, it shifts to something totally different.
Yeah. So no, it was a surprise for me, but yeah, good choice.
I hated it less than I thought I would.
There you go. Jason, why don't you go next?
Okay, so I'll go in chronological order since I seem to do that in a lot of these episodes. I
Like
think
oldest to newest.
Oldest to newest. So so my first album was an album that I think I even purchased before I joined the Brave Board in 2003. And I remember joining the boards, and I was all over this band at the time. And I mean, there's not a song that I skip on it. I think the vocals are amazing. It's back at the time it was labeled, dark progressive metal. And I really didn't understand that the meaning of the word dark. I kind of equated it to like, maybe, what is this, like a death metal progressive band? What's the meaning of the word dark? But it's just, I guess, just depressing vocals and, not your average progressive metal band. Although I think they've become that in later years, but
it's about the vastness and vastness of space.
Okay. So my first classic Swedish band formed in 95. This album came out in 01, and that's Evergrey's In Search of Truth.
Wait, I thought we were doing only 20 years old. You went to 22.
Yeah, I went 22 years
Yeah,
old.
this is where he fucking veered off like he does.
I went off, sorry, I had to go even further.
There was some text that said, guys, I picked one that's 21 or 22 years old. Is that okay?
Yeah. Being the math teacher, I know, 2023 minus 20. I'm like, am I good here? Or am I going to be kicked out of the episode?
I'm pretty sure I saw them on this tour. Did they play with Iced Earth? Did they tour with Iced Earth around here?
They toured with Iced Earth, maybe, but I know they toured with Iced Earth. What Iced Earth tour was it?
I'm thinking it might have been the American one.
No, that was 2 albums later.
Okay.
That was Inner Circle. They toured with Iced Earth.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's the first time I ever heard of them, and actually I totally dug them live enough to explore a little bit. So I did some research, some sleuthing on the interwebs, and found that this was their most. I think what I read was their most popular one, or their most well-liked one,
highest rated
one. So I went out and got it, and I think it's still the only one I own, and
it's the only one. Yeah,
it
would be the one to own.
It would be the one to own. It's not my style at all, but for some reason this band gets away with it for me with Tom's vocals. I know we talked about Tom in the last episode, right? With the
Silent Skies.
Yeah. And so it's worth listening to just for his vocal technique and his guitar playing for sure. I haven't listened to it in a long time. I probably listened to it last in 2006 or 7. So it's been a very long time, but it was a good revisit.
Yeah, this is my second favorite. My Solitude, Dominance, and Tragedy is my top. But this is like really close. It still has Patrick Carlson on drums, who I think added a lot to the band. No.
He always has the big headphones with like the wire, not here, but it's like he looks like he's listening to an 8-track player or a reel-to-reel, in the back of a van or something.
But no, this one, I didn't know if they were ever going to be able to. I mean, even that early on, like, are they going to top Solitude? And this was just, I mean, it was good enough for me. I thought Tom's vocals are still to this day good. I mean, he's phenomenal, like you said, with Silent Skies.
Yep.
And, even still with Evergrey, I think he sounds great now. But this one is I always loved back around when oh my God, what's the first album? The Dark Discovery.
Dark Discovery, yeah.
I remember when I saw the ad for that in a magazine, and I was really in that was like my whole goth metal phase. So anything that was
Dark.
dark at that time. And the album cover looked awesome, and I was like, "There's no way I'm going to find it." Then the record store here in Akron, Quonset Hut, I walked in and they had it, and it was like the Dark Discovery, and it was dirt cheap, and I thought, "Holy shit!" And then they kept getting all the other ones every time an Evergrey came out, and um, I dig the kind of the dark progressive. I think for me, they've become a little more modern. This album was still like Solitude, where it did have that like more progressive feel to it. And I think in large part because of the drums, in my opinion. But this is, even though Solitude's my favorite, I think everybody would say it seems
If you
like
need one album, yeah, if you need one album from Evergrey, what is it?
In Search of Truth.
Yeah.
Didn't they play an acoustic set at the Prog Power I went to at that bar across the street? Am I making that up?
You're making it.
Okay, I don't know.
I'm trying to remember the bar across the street.
There's no bar across the street.
No.
Okay, I imagine the entire
There's
thing.
a field across the street.
There was some other section of, it wasn't the actual
Upstairs, the loft.
Oh, the loft. Okay, it was
Yeah,
the
there
same
you go.
building
But
upstairs.
maybe they did.
I think
There's
they
a
did.
chance they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because by that time, yeah, because that would have been a gold badge show. And by that time, my neighbor had gotten rid of the gold badges, so we wouldn't have gone to it. So
I paid extra for it. But
Was it worth
Yeah.
it?
it was worth it, yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, every time I think of Evergrey, I'll just remember like the one image I have in Tom is him with the guitar over the mic stand, and his like 18-foot long hair just draping down in front of his face, singing.
Yeah, dude. I saw him. I'm trying to think that Brave Words 03, if Evergrey played, but I know they were there. I'm pretty sure they did.
I think they did.
Yeah, they did, because Inside Out had a table set up. I remember
Right.
standing at the table, and I was like, I went up and said hi to him and stuff. But I do remember Tom Anglin's hair like was so long, and the dude's like, he's tall, like
Yeah,
super,
he's like 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, he's 6'5".
and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy that now that I think of it, like they had to have played, but it wasn't Patrick Carlson, I don't think, at that time.
No, he was probably leaving by that time. Or
Yeah, because I know he's credited on Recreation Day. I can't remember if this was like that was released after or before.
it's probably right around that time. I think it probably came out.
But no, this is excellent. I mean, it's an absolute classic. I mean, Jason, you could have picked any of the Solitude through Recreation Day, and I think those are classics.
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually put Recreation Day on my list because it was within the 20 years. And then I was like, nah, I'm not picking that one. This band, I would have hated. Like, I guarantee I would have hated when those first couple albums came out. And it was a band I only got into because of a combination of the Brave board, and then I was going to be seeing them in a headlining set. So I was like, I need to check them out. And they're probably one of the only bands on that bill that I'm going to potentially like. And just seeing them the first time totally sold me on the band. And I went back and bought the first 3 albums. I bought Recreation Day because I'm pretty sure it was Recreation Day, the tour, when I first saw them, and then bought all the old stuff. And In Search of Truth was easily my favorite from that.
Very cool. Good pick. Nick.
All right. Speaking of good picks, amazing band already had 3 groundbreaking, genre-changing albums before this. And when this one came out in 05, to me, they stepped up their game even more. It's always my go-to album by them. This band to me is like the kings of just hypnotic riffs. You know, they have 8-minute songs with maybe 4 riffs in there. But the guitar, I think it was one of the first black metal bands I heard with like guitar solos, like shredding guitar solos, like, and there wasn't a lot of blasting. It's pretty heavy droning, again, repetitive, and probably the band that I would say maybe they didn't coin it themselves, but fans coined it as atmospheric black metal, and that is Druk here, Blood in Our Wells. Again, I heard the albums before that. I'm like, okay, I was looking forward to it, but when this came on, I was just shocked that they actually, stepped it up to another level, and they've never reached it since then. I played this thing so much, the CD case is totally broken, everything's shattered inside, and
It would be in the scuff bin with Carnal Forge if you were to sell it.
Definitely be in the scuff bin. I just love the shit out of this album. Completely flawless. I know a lot of people prefer, I think, Forgotten Legends, but I don't know, just the vibe on this one, the production on this one, I don't know, I have nothing bad to say about it.
Larson?
What's fun about visiting Nick in Portland here is that you get to see his reactions when I asked him if I could listen to it on the YouTube here on the TV. He had something to do earlier, and
He wouldn't let you play the CD.
Well, no, it's just easier, these days.
I also don't have a CD player at home. I have CD players.
Yeah, I know, they're always in the truck. I totally understand that. So yeah, I mean, I was with these black metal albums, I'm kind of focused on the covers, and I had tons of questions, about this album cover, because on the TV, it was kind of etched. If you guys look at the YouTube, it says 1865. And I'm like, wow, this was drawn, 150, 160 years ago. And I'm like, so what's going on here in the picture? Is that box is that a coffin? Is there like one of her dead children in there? So now see, you guys are looking, it's like,
yeah, I'm looking at it.
What's going on? There could be I got 1,000 questions for this album cover. Why is the old lady's or mom, the mother, why is her head down? Is she taking the horse and the sled to it looks like it's an ocean beyond the house. Is this going to be like some kind of ocean funeral, or is she just like bringing home, oats and barley for the day? I mean,
I'm going to go with oats and barley all day long.
Yeah. But, another fun thing for me about this podcast is I'm totally starting to warm up to these bands, and I can't name the tracks here, but track 4's guitar solo, that's what really stood out for me on the albums. And the black metal vocals are now, I'm just starting to, appreciate. Maybe the word appreciate would be good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's track 4. I could listen to it again.
We're actually going to go get matching Druk tattoos this afternoon.
We just need to flip a coin on, who
on
gets
where on the body,
right? Who gets it on the inner thigh, and who
gets it on the ass cheek?
Who gets it on the left ass cheek? So yeah, I'm warming up to it. I could actually see myself purchasing a lot of these 9 CDs that I've been listening to over these past 5 months.
So you're getting this one after the Between the Buried and Me?
Yeah, Pat, this one I would have to rate higher.
Yeah, I can see that. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I mean, this album was like huge. I remember on the internet when it came out because it was one of those ones that everybody was talking about, which is probably the first one I got from them as well, because I just remember the hype about it. And so I ordered it because I was in a phase where I was, you know, sure that was pre-YouTube and whatnot, where you could check something out. And I ordered it based on that. Then I bought stuff back from whatever vendors were selling it and bought the probably 2 or 3 albums since then. But are they still around even, Nick?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because then I remember I even went to, I think, Worm Gear and bought, because Hate Forest, they're somehow,
This is Roman Shenko or whatever his last name is.
yeah.
Both of his
Because
bands.
I bought 2 or 3, I know at least 2 Hate Forest albums just because of that connection.
Yeah, Hate Force is
Yeah.
definitely more raw.
Yeah.
Doesn't he do, is it dudes from this band that's in that Rotten Finger or whatever? Rotten Finger.
I think so. I have
You
to
know.
look at that, but that sounds familiar. He's also done that band Windswept that has 2 albums.
I was sitting here trying to think. I don't think I own anything by this band, but they've always been written down. And this album is, I was looking at my list and it's written down of stuff to get. And it was only just because of, word of mouth. I never even really listened to this band that much before this. And I mean, I loved it. It's right up my alley, this type of stuff. So I felt stupid for not having it already,
Yeah.
But no, this is definitely my type of black metal.
Yeah, it doesn't have the screeching vocals. It's still dirty, but well produced dirty, I guess you could say. Like I said, there's the music. They never show off until they need to, and just the way Roman, the way he can write a riff that's pretty simple and play it for 3 minutes straight and not make it boring is just a wonderful skill that not a lot of people can do.
Mhm.
Nick, there's a Woods of Prey connection with this band too.
They're both Canadian.
No.
Nope.
He was gonna from what I recall, Gold telling me was Roman was gonna put out the first Woods album, the 5-song kind of EP on cassette for him way back when, way before cassettes were getting big.
Yeah,
so
again.
Gold made that deal with him. And then if I remember it correctly, I'd have to look through my emails. I probably have it in an email from him somewhere, that he never got the cassettes. And I think all he got was the cassette cases, or the inlays was all that he ever got. So if I remember it all correctly, Gold then just put out the cassettes himself, but used those inlays. So they're like hand numbered, but then it still says Nightbird Records on the back of the cassette. But
Wow. Okay.
from what I recall, he got
did Roman just rip him off or something?
Huh? That was kind of my understanding. Was
Well, he's Ukrainian. They
Yeah.
they need any money they can get over there.
yeah.
No, this is another excellent choice.
I
So,
know, Kip. I know, dude.
it's another one that's going on my list. I already had the Evergrey, but yeah, the colors and this one definitely. So, well, this one's already on my list, but I'll go with my newest one, or like the one that came out. I don't think most recent.
21 maybe.
Yeah. 2021.
Well, 2 of them are actually pretty new.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one,
But they sound like they're 35 years old.
yeah, this one is. I mean, anybody that knows me knows I'm a big doom metal guy, and doom death. I think when it's done right, I just think it's killer. I mean, I love it, and I've listened to Hooded Menace for a long time. I bought their debut. It was off Razorback Records years ago that Fulfill the Curse. And I don't know how you say the dude's name that's in the band. I always call him Lasse. Pretty much the main guy. This is so classic. I mean, first of all, the album cover just rules.
Yep.
That's a badass. If you have a crypt keeper with a skull bell.
Yeah.
With a
Everybody
smoking
needs
skull.
Smoking skull, yeah.
Everybody needs a crypt keeper with a skull bell.
Yeah.
And the smoke are their skulls. But yeah, it's just so riff heavy. I think the band just looks awesome. The drum production on it is like pounding. I love the vocals because there's that kind of like echo effect on them. And I love it when death metal vocals sound like that. They kind of have that like echo, like he recorded it in a cave or some dungeon or something. And it's just great. I mean, the riffs are there. They're totally memorable. I know a lot of people talk about all their other albums, and I like, all of Hooded Menace, all of their stuff. But this one to me, as far as I'm concerned, belongs with the death metal greats. Classic death metal albums that came out 30 some years ago, 30, this is just perfect from beginning to end. I mean, Blood Ornaments, Those Who Absorb the Night, Corpus Asunder. I mean, my God, every single song on it is just.
Yeah, Blood Ornaments, easily my favorite on that album.
Yeah. Just riffs it's not so doomy that it's just slow and boring and plotting, but the riffs are like, you're just, driving, I'm like listening to it and I'm just headbanging, pumping the fist with the riffs are just awesome, man. And they're
It's not a very safe way to drive, Kip. You need to keep both hands on the wheel. And
I live life on the edge, especially when I'm listening to Hooded Menace. But
yeah, Kip, this is a fucking ripper of an album. It's easily my favorite of the three you chose. I hadn't heard the band at all, and I've never that artwork being posted on the Now Playing thread over and over and over again. I've got nothing bad to say about it. I'm actually keep my eye out for it if I see it around town. It's fucking dirty. It's nasty. It gives me STDs when I listen to it. It's incredible. My only downside I say about it is the name has tritone in it, which is an interval in music, and I didn't hear that interval played. So it might have been in there once or twice, but like with the name Tritonius Bell, you would think there'd be a lot of tritones in the riffs. So that kind of let me down. That was a music theory joke that no one really understands, but
isn't that referred to as the devil's chord?
Yeah, exactly. Augmented fourth or the diminished fifth. So, but yeah, thank you for choosing this because I've always had my interest in it, and then finally heard it for the first time. I'm like I said, if I find it in the scuff bin for 50 cents, I'm picking it up.
You might even go out on a limb for $1.
Yeah.
No, Kip got me this because I think we were texting back and forth because I was starting to revisit a lot of death metal and stuff that I'd kind of pushed aside for 10, 15 years. And I think it was when we were talking about this episode, he said, "Do you own this?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Don't worry, it's on the way." Because I'd heard the band, because I remember when Never Cross the Dead came out, that came out on Profound Lore, and I bought it because that was around the time that if they were putting out anything, I would buy it and give it a shot. And I remember thinking, yeah, it's good, it's great, but it was not something I ever returned to. But then when I got this and put it in, it totally hit the mood for me revisiting all that old death metal and remembering what I liked about it, because I'd gotten so burned out on it by probably 95. I really rarely bought any new death metal, or it would have to be a well-established band that I just was kind of filling the holes, but this album fucking smokes, so I need to get the one previous to it to check out how that goes. But yeah, Blood Ornaments, like I could be listening to the album and I'd get towards the end, but then I'd always shoot back around or I'd get to the Wasp song and then skip that and go back to Blood Ornaments and then start the whole album over again.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jay? What do you think?
Monstrous guitars. Yeah, still warming up to the vocals. But yeah, it was another one that Nick and I were listening to, and yeah, it's super heavy. Just like what I said with Pat, I understand why you like it.
I mean, it's definitely my favorite of theirs.
Of the three, or of your choices there, or of the band.
Up
How
there.
many albums does the band have?
God, I'd have to count.
I think it's like 4 or 5, maybe
1, 2, 3, 4,
6.
5, 6. Yeah, there's some EPs and splits, but full lengths. Yeah, Fulfill the Curse is the first one I got, and that was on Razorback, which put out some excellent shit back in the day. Billy Nocera.
But how does that sound? It's not like a Razorback-y band, is it?
No, because Razorback did. That's why they stood out, because Razorback was more, like I listened to like Ghoul and Frightmare and Fondle Corpse and all these bands that were more just kind of like grind death metal, kind of gore grind. And then here was Hooded Menace, and it was like, and the reason I bought it was because of the old Italian, I think it's Italian horror flicks of the Templars, like the zombies. And I always loved those movies. They're not great, but there's just something about them I like. So everything about, Fulfill the Curse, like just the cover of it, I thought, oh my God, it's those like zombies, like the hooded zombies, like, but yeah, I mean, it was totally different than the other stuff that was on Razorback. And Lasse put out a couple other things. I think Claws, and then Vacant Coffin, that came out on Razorback. I think I have those hanging around somewhere, but no, it's their highest rated album, thinking about a band that's been around for close to 20 years, and the newest album is their highest rated one. I think it's their best album, so I'm stoked to hear the next one.
That's cool.
So
I didn't look at their Metal Archives page, so
Jason really slacked on the
slacked.
Jason, just so you know, this album has 7 reviews with a 90% average.
Sounds about right. All I wrote down was they're from Finland, gentlemen. And I'm wondering if Lasse's last name is Opso, because that would be cool.
I know Nick would be able to say his last name. It's L.A. Well, it's Lasse, Lasse, then his last name is Pyykko with an umlaut above the O. So
oh shit, he's in Claws. I didn't realize he's in Claws.
Yeah, that's
because I have that one. Yeah, I have that Claws album.
Was the umlaut over the Y or the O?
The O.
Oh,
and there's 2 Y's.
Yeah, it's Pyykko.
Pyykko.
I don't know. Why did I know that?
I don't know, because you have all those albums of like weird pronunciations. I figured you'd just be I'm like,
he's in a Claws band. I need to know where the Santa band is from.
But yeah, they do a killer Wasp cover, by the way. The Torture Never Stops. It's just crushing. It just sounds so good, dude. It's
a little heavy. It's a little heavier than the original.
Yeah, tad.
Thank God.
But all right, you're up, Pat.
Lap 2.
All right, this one is gonna be which one? So this was 2006, and by this point, this band was rapidly becoming one of my top 5 or 10 bands at the time. And the albums that all came before it, was it 5 albums before it? I loved all of them. This one came out, and it was, I mean, with the album before it, they'd already started to kind of, I mean, they were never like they were never like a big technical band, but they were starting to streamline a little more, I'm not going to say accessible, but yeah, a little more accessible. And when this album came out, I just remember I loved it, but also it was one of those albums again that everyone on the internet was talking about it. Most people loved it, with the exception of those that just like the first album or whatever. And that's Amon Amarth with Odin on Our Side. And to me, it's the last great Amon Amarth album. I kind of look at this album like, kind of like the Metallica The Black Album. You listen to it, yeah, it's Amon Amarth, but it's a little cleaner, it's a little crisper. It's, you know, a lot of the speed is gone, with the exception of some of the songs. They're still fast, but it just, to me, this is the album that also I consider it an instant classic, because it, in my opinion, it's the one that really broke them, in the sense of their crowds started getting bigger. They were not just opening anymore or playing small halls headlining. They were playing bigger clubs and that
Something
kind of
that
thing.
Anthrax has never done yet.
So to me, this is the last great Amon Amarth album. I like a few of the albums that came after it, but nowhere near the level of this. But this, to me, is the album that just kind of closes that chapter, even though it's not really like the first 2 or 3 albums. It closes that book for me.
Whenever this came out, everyone was just gushing over it. Absolutely. And I only got into them at Versus the World, which was what,
The one before, or 2 before it, yeah.
Yeah. So I heard that, and I heard Fate and Norns, and I'm the oddball in the world that Fate and Norns is actually my favorite Amon Amarth album.
Well, that's to me, the Metallica analogy I made is similar, because Fate of Norns has that kind of, to me, piss poor production. It's like kind of thin, and it's just lacking the punch that the earlier albums did with the sound.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the riffs and everything, and
yeah,
the songwriting. That's my favorite. And I've always found this album underwhelming. I would probably rate it in like the middle of the catalog. So I've always been kind of confused why this one is so much higher than a lot of the, it's a band that sounds, a lot of the albums sound pretty similar.
Yeah, totally.
Some things that stick out from certain albums, and this one just, it's not bad by any means. I have it, I've listened to it many times, but whenever I'm done, it's just like, I always go back to Versus, Fate, and even like Satur after it a little bit more. I mean, it's a great fucking pick, and it's definitely a classic, because I think that's, like you said, that's what broke them into, not the mainstream, but enough to have 300 people at their shows rowing a fucking boat when they play.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, there's nothing bad about it. Let's just put it that way. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
It's just, for some reason, it doesn't stick out to me above like 2 or 3 or 4 of the other albums.
Sure.
It's weird, because this is, to me, their pinnacle, and then everything after just got progressively worse and worse. And
that sounds like Metallica.
But this 2 songs alone, Runes to My Memory and Hermod's Ride to Hell,
Yeah,
those 2 songs are worth the entire album. I agree with, for me, it's like this back is mandatory. Amon Amarth. Versus the World is my favorite, but I don't think anybody can go, like Nick says, Fate of Norns. This is likely your favorite, Pat.
no, not my favorite.
Not your favorite. Okay.
Oh, it would potentially be Versus the World. I would probably go Versus the World as my favorite. Yeah, probably.
No, this
would probably be my like 3rd or 4th favorite. But to me, Stone Cold classic, in that like I remember this album like calling to Sam Goody and saying, hey, this album's out today. Do you have it? And there was a guy who I lovingly refer to as Metal Ray, this dude with long hair, who was the manager at the time. And he had a metal section. He said, yeah, dude, we got 3 copies of it or whatever. And I was like, I'll be right there. And I drove down. I think I might have even picked up 2, one for my neighbor, because I think I turned him onto them with Fate of Norns, because then when we saw him on Fate of Norns tour, and so we were sold, on this band, and that carried over longer than it probably should have, because like I was like, every tour I'm going to see him, I'm going to buy the album when it comes out. But now this was to me, when I look back, it's like, yeah, this is where they kind of peaked, and then the downward slope started. Like you.
I'm curious to see, because I'll be seeing them here in 20 days from today.
You're gonna fucking row the boat, right? You're gonna row the boat.
You're gonna row. Come on, rope it.
You know what? I'm sitting in the we're sitting in the lawn. It's an outdoor venue, and I guarantee
There will be a rope in.
the boat. And
What's the tour they're on?
they're opening for Ghost.
The rowboat tour.
And it's at the same venue that I just saw Pantera at, Star Lake. It's like west of Pittsburgh, in the middle of nowhere. I love the venue. But it's a big venue.
Yeah,
And
it's a big outdoor amphitheater, so it's like 14 to 20,000. All those
yeah,
are.
I mean, there had to be a good 20,000 at Pantera last Friday, and I was like looking around thinking, I don't know if Ghost and Amon Amarth are going to pull in this many. It's kind of a weird venue for them to. So I'm curious to see. I'm also curious. I know they're going to sound good, but I wonder what they're going to play, because the newest album, like the past 3 or 4, it's just been garbage to me. And it's funny. Somebody commented, I read a couple years ago online, that as soon as they went from like the brown and gold covers to like doing different colors,
The blues and the
shit, all of a sudden they just got worse. It's like, so I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of a funny coincidence, but
because brown and gold, like the Padres, that's why they were good.
there you go. But
Kip, you got to go against the grain at that show. So when that fucking rowboat shit starts, you have to go in there and start digging like the dwarves or whatever that fucking
Windrose.
the windrose
God,
dwarf digging.
And if
I'm
it's
actually really curious to see what Jason thinks about it, because this would be a band I think that you would really dig, just because they're so melodic.
Yeah, they're death metal, but they're that melodic death metal that, and you can, also I think through every album he got a little more clear, where you could really hear his vocals and hear almost everything he's saying. And I remember that coming through with this album, as you're listening. Oh, you don't have to read along to hear what he's saying. It's like you can understand it. Like I go back and I watch from when we saw him headline on this tour. Someone has like 3 grainy videos of 3 different songs from the show I saw him at the Masquerade in Atlanta. And I watch it, and it's weird because whatever the technology or whatever they were recording with at the time that this came out is shit compared to now. You can get a crystal clear video that actually sounds decent, and this is like, it almost looks like you're watching a show from like 91 or 92 from whoever filmed it, because I can remember that show so vividly, and then I watch it, it's like it feels longer than whatever that is. What is that, 17 years ago? It feels like 90s to me when I watch it and hear it.
What do you think, Jason?
you can ask Josh. First of all, Josh is my younger son who lives with me, and out of the 9 albums to listen to, this is the one I went back to the most. So this will be an easy purchase for me. It got to the point where he's like, "You're listening to Amon Amarth again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm listening to Amon Amarth again." So yeah, out of everything here, this one's pretty much at the top out of everything. And now just listening to it now, I'm like, well, what was I doing, back then? Why didn't I like it?
You were listening to fucking Evergrey.
I was listening to, I was at that, in that prog power phase.
That dark metal phase.
Yeah, dark progressive metal phase.
What's Fates Warning putting out next year?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Yep.
No, I think you should go back. Fate of Norns would be the next one back. And just
I don't see if you dig this album, I don't see how you can't dig any of the stuff before it. I really can't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little, like, I would say One Cent from the Golden Hall is, it's a little dirtier, but like that would probably be up there with Versus the World as my favorite. It's like, because I remember hearing that when it first came out, it was like, holy shit, this is awesome. It's, I hadn't heard anything that sounded like it to me at the time, and I kind of followed them loosely from then. I bought the albums, but like once that Versus the World came out, it was like that exploded to me, and I was like, holy shit, what have I been missing with the Crusher and Avenger and that type of thing.
So here's this band. I don't own a single disc from them. With Odin on our side, will be the first one purchased. How many albums do they have?
12, maybe?
A dozen?
Yeah.
But whatever you do, don't start at the most recent and work your way backwards.
So now that makes me interested now, because I'm like, well, whatever this newest album is,
Well, it's
I'm wondering if I'm gonna like it.
you might actually.
I don't
some
know.
of the riffs are okay, but like the lyrical topics and
Yes.
and they're starting to recycle a lot because it's pretty straightforward, basic riffs. But back then they were catchy and very memorable, and now it's just like, I think you guys have written that riff 7 times already, and and they've become like a parody of themselves 100%. It's it's like they're becoming the AC/DC of melodic death metal.
Totally.
Don't be making fun about AC/DC, man.
I'm just saying, when I listen to an AC/DC song now, I'm just like, I've heard AC/DC play that exact same riff on 4 different songs.
This one, Pat, I hate to tell you, but I'm gonna put this one between the BT Bam. This one before that too.
Well, you're up next, Jay.
I'm up next. Looking at my list here, this band was formed in Toronto in 1983.
Nick loves them already.
Rush. It's Rush, right?
Yeah. Well, not 1983. The number 2 band, the number 2 Canadian band behind Rush.
I thought you were going to say behind Razor.
Right. No. This band, I even have to put them before Triumph, Pat. This album came out in 2009. I believe their last album was like 93. So there's like a 16-year gap between albums. And this one was definitely I guess I wouldn't call it a Brave Board purchase, but thank God the Brave Board was there, because I remember the posts and the
guitarist was posting about it too.
Yeah. So the excitement was there, and when I heard about it, I'm like, oh my God, is it all still the same 4 guys? Because in their entire career, their entire recording career, it's been the same 4 guys. So I know they had a couple of bass drummer changes, early in the history of the band. And then the 4 guys settled in, and it's still the same 4 guys since the first album, which was called Torment and Fire. Torment and Fire in 85. It's still the same 4 guys. And I was just kind of excited because it was 16 years between albums, and I think it's just as ferocious as all those earlier albums. I don't think there's a drop in quality between, 1985 to 1993 to 2009. And that's Sacrifice, the ones I condemn. And I am friends with the three guys that are on Facebook, and they're supposed to be recording a new one.
Wait, when you say they're not a drop in quality, you're saying Apocalypse Inside is even level with the first three and this one?
Yeah, I kind of put all those albums, I mean, obviously I would rate them, but by no means is Apocalypse Inside a Saint Anger or a Virtual 11.
No, but it might be or it might be a Distortion or a Green.
Yeah, for me, no.
Okay.
It's still way above those.
Okay.
If you want to call a minor drop, sure. But Soldiers of Misfortune.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Oh, dude. The Tormented Fire is really raw.
You just mean, after 16 years, they came back. There's not there's still, they picked up, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, they didn't skip a beat.
To me, of any of those bands that took those long breaks, I think this is the best by far of any of those bands when you're thinking about like Heathen, Death Angel. I'm trying to think who else took those, basically either broke up or just went away or did other projects. This, I think, is easily the best of those thrash bands that disappeared and came back. This is hands down the top album.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a barn burner of an album for sure. It's vicious. It's great. I can't wait to see him at Maryland.
Oh yeah, that's going to be awesome. That'll definitely be a highlight for me because I've never, has anybody here?
No.
Yep.
They played the third Day of the Equinox, or might have had a different name, or no, Day of the Equinox 2 they played, and I just couldn't make it up to Toronto for it because I believe Tim from Shadow Kingdom was big on him with that return and was heading up there to see him, but no, never seen him. I don't know that I ever would have had to. I mean, I think they maybe loosely toured the US in the 80s, but I was living in North Dakota at the time, and that wouldn't have been anything that came to Bismarck, North Dakota,
Did it come to Dickinson?
Definitely not. If they were Trickster and playing 30 years after their quote unquote prime, yes, they would be there. Just like Ron Keel, the Metal Cowboy, played this year,
Did they play at the gym, the home of the midgets gym?
Oh God, no. They play where they close the street down and you have kind of like an open bar, and it's 5, 6, 7, 800 people out there, banging their head to a Mitch Malloy fronted Great White.
Did they play in front of the Dollar General?
There is a Dollar General now. But.
No, this is a really good choice, man. I remember, I think maybe that was around the time that I started getting on the board. It was 2009 or 2011. I can't remember exactly, but I remember everybody going nuts over this.
Yeah.
You just think, you got to get the new Sacrifice. You got to, and no, I mean, I would agree that it's definitely one of the stronger, if not the strongest, kind of like comeback return, especially for thrash.
Yeah, thrash.
Because this album could have been released in 88 and it would have been the same album. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like that good to me. But I do think it's a classic album.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah.
And I want to know what Nick thinks of this album.
Here we
go. Well,
I felt like I was experiencing torment and fire listening to it. No, I hadn't had a chance to spin it. until Jason picked me up from the airport a couple of days ago. We came here and listened to some of the records, and he's like, Nick, just you're gonna fucking hate this. I know it. Just listen to one song. And
Hiroshima.
Hiroshima, I was gonna say.
Oh, dude,
that song on
Hiroshima
the album.
is, god damn,
and
just that song.
and you know, I I listened to the whole song. And, it was I wanted to hate it more than I did, so that's the thing. But
That's good.
yeah,
That's good.
it just sounded like fucking Canadian thrash to me, and it was well produced.
Yeah, well, this is better than like, you know, Slaughter and fucking Razor, and
Dude, this is tops. Come on.
this is top tier Canadian thrash.
Yeah, no, I tried to not listen to as much Canadian thrash as possible.
This is the big.
Well, because it's thrash too. It's I mean, thrash is already a barrier, and then you make a Canadian thrash, it's a bigger barrier for you. We get it.
100%. Yeah, it's still better than Colors, for sure.
It just needed more chugga chuggas.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I told Jason, like, I totally get the appeal. Like, it's just fucking sounds good. It's just, it doesn't move the needle for me at all. Like, great playing. I even like some of the fucking riffs, but just the vocal delivery, the same kind of, as I say this, I talk about black metal, right? But the same fucking drum beat on almost every song. I don't know.
I think for Nick to like it, it would have to be, the cover would have to be like a Asian lady dragging a casket, you know, in the shadow of a mushroom cloud, you know. So then he would be thinking, is this, you know, coming back from harvest? Is this post-nuclear apocalypse? Is this?
Yeah. It's just when I see the logo and I see the artwork and I know it's thrash.
Well, the logo is very 80s. Logos.
I already know what it's going to sound like before you hear the first fucking note, and then as soon as I hear the first fucking note, that's what it sounded like.
My goal someday that Nick is going to say that he's a fan of thrash metal.
Yeah, I would love to hear, like, Nick, do you like any thrash? Like, I know you like respect or maybe tolerate certain thrash, but is there like a thrash album, Nick, that you would be like, I own this thrash album, I think it's fucking awesome, and I listen to it with some, you know, with some regularity?
I have Ride the Lightning.
Well, that's appreciation.
And Master of Puppets. I think it's.
He's got Rust in Peace.
That's more.
Yeah, I guess Rust in Peace. I knew that about Nick, but I don't even think that's.
I still don't really consider that thrash. Yeah, that's more speed to me. But no, Try me. Just keep throwing them at me, and maybe one will stick.
Def Leppard Hysteria.
Speaking of which, you're up, Nick.
Okay. Well, I mean, after Jason already said Pat's last one was the best one, I don't know what the fucking point of this is, but I'll talk about this album anyway. Because this is, I would put it easily my top 10 of all time, possibly top 5 of all time if I really put some effort into it. I mean, I don't even know if I have the words to describe what this album is and what it means to me and just how mind-blowing it is. And that's not hyperbole in my brain. This album is just, I couldn't find a possible bad thing to say about it. Gun to my head, change something about it, I don't know what I would do. From the artwork to the production to how this band went from a raw black metal band to start incorporating a little more folk without again being folky, but just some folk instruments and whatnot. It's progressed, and then when this album came out, complete apex. I mean, I knew when the next album came out after I was gonna be let down, and I was. It's not because it's a bad album, it's just because it's not this album. Another Ukrainian band, Nocturnal Mortem's Velos Stali, which translates to the voice of steel. This is the I own the original. This is the expanded version, kind of remastered, and it sounds like you hear things that I've listened to this album 120 times before this came out, and you could hear things in the mix that came out a little differently. It has a few extra bonus tracks on it, early versions of Valkyria. And it has a cover version of Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues, who Graham Nash was the drummer for thanks to our card game.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about this. The first track is just a builder to the whole thing, and then like the second track with the 4-minute Pink Floyd guitar solo breakdown, something that I've never heard in any black metal album before, or any metal album before, where it's this blistering black metal song with some obviously melodic stuff in there, the keyboards, and then it goes to this fucking space jam out session.
Wait, didn't you listen to Colors?
Well, before I heard this, how about? I mean, I heard this before Colors. Sorry. And then the next song, Ukraine, has that like Euro synth pop chorus that I fucking love. It's a mashup of a whole bunch of stuff. The Path to the Sky, that like little 4-minute acoustic by like a song, slows it down before. I don't know. There's nothing bad to say about this, in my opinion. It's a flawless. Literally, I probably, there's a few albums I would literally give a 10 out of 10, and this is by far one of them. Like I said, possibly top 5 of all time, easily top 10. I mean, just look at this fucking artwork. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
God damn it.
What's the third song? How do you pronounce, like, what is it translated?
Are you talking about not counting the intro?
Counting the intro.
Counting the intro, Valkyria?
Yeah, that's the Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
When I first heard that, I was sold.
Almost like with like a reggae upbeat in the background.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it is a classic album. And if anybody asks me, I've had people here, Nocturnal Mortem, have you ever listened to them? Just buy Voice of Steel. I'm like, just do it. Like, you'll love it. And this is a classic of that style, 100%.
Well, I mean, by that style is a little tough, because I don't know if I own another CD that sounds like this. I mean, it's definitely black metal, but compared to the albums before, I mean, the one before it's closer, but then the 4 before that are just extremely raw, blistering, insane black metal.
Mm-hmm.
Just even the vocal performance from Kinyas on this, he's like an out of control banshee on some of his screams. But this is like the epitome of like they have a song about being Ukrainian, and obviously this is like 2009, before the last 2 years, and like this band just like bleeds Ukrainian, and they're like, you could tell they're so proud to be who they are. A little too much to their hindrance in the past with their pro-Ukrainian
right there. Yeah, socialism.
Yeah, but they calmed down. They got rid of the NS tag enough to the point that the keyboardist, who was Finnest, was still so pro. I mean, I don't know, this is my belief, but he left the band because they started changing the logo, we're changing our sound, we're changing the lyrics, and the keyboardist, who still does Finnest as his only active band, I think, on Metal Archives, just dropped the band and replaced him. So yeah, fucking great. Right, Jason? Oh, so fucking good.
Yeah, this is a totally killer album. This is the only one I own by him, and this is another one of those that I bought because of the buzz about it on the internet at the time that it came out. And I think the reason I never bought anything after it was because the same thing happened, in the sense that like when the album post this came out, people were bagging on it, saying, oh, it's nothing close to Voice of Steel. So it's the only thing I own, the only thing I know of them. So, but yeah, it's a total classic album, and I love, this is an album, the louder you crank it, the better it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Yeah, the one before, Mirozo Vieni, the brown one with the hand going through the shirt that Kip caught me for my wedding, is also fucking great. Not like this at all. This is just the album that doesn't sound like anything before or anything after. It's just lightning in a bottle, 100%. I think Jason had something else to say besides
This album, it's got fucking seagulls on it.
We were listening to it about 2 hours ago, and We were just laughing because in between tracks 2 and 3, she's like, those are fucking
Are
seagulls.
those birds? They're birds. You know what this song needs, Nick? Needs birds. No, but I can, it's another one. This is, I don't know, man, I'm changing. Dude, that album's great. And then when you see Nick's reaction, you just kind of, I don't know, man, metal's just better with friends, you know? And he's not kidding about the album cover. And not just any metal album cover, just in the history of albums. Dude, that cover is intense, crazy, so much detail. Just the lady winged warriors and the flames. Just the what is he, a blacksmith?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Dude, that needs to be a poster. Every metalhead needs this album cover as a poster. I want it in my house.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Let's get matching back tattoos.
Ridiculously impressive.
Yeah, you guys got to get multiple Ukrainian tattoos on this trip.
Look at these dirt bags.
And it's got seagulls, man.
That's another great pick.
And then, yeah, we talked about Valkyrie track 3 with that Pink Floyd breakdown. We've talked about it before on previous episodes. It's just, it's so good.
It's weird because with Nick's likes, again, when back in April or May when these were sent out, I think I remember saying, like, I saw Nick's picks and I was like, I was again shocked because I owned all 3 of them, but also I was like, yeah, I can totally see it. It wouldn't be for me, but I can totally understand those picks.
Yeah, if you own all 3, then they are classics because they're mandatory.
Well,
Who's up? Pat?
Kip.
I'm gonna choose
No, Kip.
Yep.
my second one. This is a band that I never really thought. I listened to them a couple years prior because of the label that they were on, Bad Omen Records, and I had some other stuff from Bad Omen that I got. I think they're label based out of the UK, if I remember correctly, and it was cool. You know, like some of the early stuff I thought was pretty good, but it was always kind of missing an element for me. It just didn't grab me at the time. And then I happened to, I think it was on YouTube. I went down, the YouTube rabbit hole, and I was just listening to things and doing something on the computer, and whatever I was listening to finished, and then this album came on just automatically. And it blew my mind.
The algorithm got you.
What's up?
The algorithm got you.
Yes. And anybody that knows me knows I love new wave of British heavy metal. I love the guys right back there, Thin Lizzy.
God bless you. Amen. All hail to thee. Let us pray.
So anything that sounds near to that, anything that pays homage to the great Phil and then Lizzy, or anything with new wave British heavy metal, I'm down with it. And this album to me is an absolute instant classic that I'll be talking about. I mean, I tell everybody about this album. I played it for all of my friends. I've commented on it online, like everybody has to get this if you're into this kind of stuff. And that's Witch Hazel 3 Pentecost. It to me is
Re-release or remaster because the cover is different. Was that just a special edition?
It's just
There you
a
Okay.
Slipcase.
edition. When I ordered it from Bad Omen from the Bandcamp, it just came in a slipcase.
Those cardboard cases. Yeah.
Yeah. And the one thing I like about it is they're, and I know some people complain about it because they're like Christian band, but they're not on a Christian label. But it's not Christian like Striper Christian. It's Christian.
It's bad omen. It's bad omen Christian.
Yeah. It's like if King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table were, writing Christian lyrics. This is what it would be. It's like this very kind of like bombastic, I don't know, just real uplifting. I can imagine like a knight fighting in battle and like, singing these songs as he's fighting in battle. But to me, it's all about Colin Hendra, who's, to me, he's Witch Hazel. Also did a little bit of time in Angel Witch recently, like more recently. But this album is absolutely perfect. He is the Fight, Spirit and Fire, I Am Redeemed, Archangel, Dry Bones. Just song after song on this it's an instant classic for kind of hard rock, heavy metal. It toes the line because it is like new wave of British heavy metal, but it does have a lot of the hard rock sensibility, like Thin Lizzy, because of the dual guitar leads, and it's not overly flashy, super melodic, super memorable choruses. And I think that's what gets me, is it kind of goes back to like the 70s and the early 80s of that style. And I recommend this to anybody.
When I first listened to it, or when you put it out, I was thinking of the other Witch Hazel without the Y.
Mm.
And I was confused, and I was trying to figure out what it was, and then I realized it was another band. I gotta admit, the first time I listened to it, I hated it. I wouldn't say hated it, I just listened to it and I was like, I listened to it all the way through and was like, what did I just listen to? So, back in April, May, I gave it some more goes, and then, what I really realized was the closing 3 tracks, they're kind of like a mellower tritone, as it were, not without the tritone, Nick, but the Reap the Harvest, The Crown, and Ancient of Days. I found myself putting the album on and then going to those final 3 tracks. Then I would come back around and give the album another go, and ultimately realized I also like that I Am Redeemed was another killer track. But when we were getting ready to know that we were finally going to do this, I was like, oh shit. When you sent me the list again, I was like, oh shit, Witch Hazel. I immediately went to those last 3 tracks. That's what got me to this album. And this is one I would probably buy based on just those closing 3 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I was confused too when Kip sent this out, because he sent it as Witcherly Hazel.
Yeah.
What? No, what? Whikerly.
Yeah, Whikerly.
I don't even know what that is. That was like the autocorrect, and it came out.
Don't you love autocorrect?
I was like, how did? But
Hood Menace, was it?
Hood
Menace and Whikerly Hazel.
Hood Menace.
Yeah. It was funny when I took Jason here to Second Avenue Records, and about halfway through us going through the boxes and boxes of CDs, they changed the music that was played, and I tried to search for it right now, because I put it into my phone. I put it to the search a song, because after about 2 songs, I look over at Jason like, is fucking Kip back there playing the music? Because it sounded like, you said, the algorithm of YouTube just hit you like this, whatever the hell it was. It sounded just exactly like something you would like. I wish I could remember what band that was, but we were like, Kip would love this.
It was like the Doom Hour at Second Avenue.
It was probably like Goat Snake or something.
But Kip, this is so in your fucking wheelhouse. The second the first riff started, I'm like, yep, this is a Kip album, 100%. And it's 100% just fucking fine for me, dude. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. I listened to it. And if you put it on, we're hanging out, I would enjoy the shit out of it, man. It's just, I like some of those bands that you like, but like, just didn't stand out to me. It was good. It was very
I'm
good.
telling you, just pull it up and go to the last 3 tracks.
What do you think, Jay?
I wasn't grabbing for Thin Lizzy because I'm like, this sounds like right out of 1972, and they sound like somebody, and I can't figure it out. But to me, it's even before, new wave of British or traditional heavy metal. It's to me, they're not an 80s sounding band. They're a 70s sounding band.
100%.
And I don't know, for some reason, the only band I could grab was Grand Funk. And I'm like, do they sound like Grand Funk? And I'm like, no. But then I turned to Nick and I said, you know what, Nick, if this album was on the radio, I wouldn't change the channel.
Ringing endorsement.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
Those are 2 ringing endorsements right there. If we were hanging out talking and we were playing it,
Yeah.
I'd let you keep playing it.
Yeah,
I was stuck in traffic in Sleepy Hollow, California.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change the channel.
Bingo. Freaking Sleepy Hollow witch hazel right there.
No,
It just has that Wishbone Ash.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And I love Wishbone.
Yeah, mixed with, I listen to so much new wave of British heavy metal. I can hear so much of it in a lot of these riffs and like the way the songs are structured, because a lot of times when I play new wave of British heavy metal stuff, people think it's 70s stuff just because of, just how it sounded back then. But I could see these guys, the new album, it's still taking a little bit.
I was going to ask, what do you think of the new album?
I don't think it's as good as this. I think whereas this to me is a 10 out of 10 instant classic, the new one is like a 9 out of 10. I think what really drags it down is the drummer. It has a different drummer who I think was an original. I think he was in the band prior to, maybe like on the first album or 2. And there's not a lot of variety in his drum beat. And to me, it's like if I'm listening to AC/DC and I'm listening to Phil Rudd, there's not a lot of variety, but Phil Rudd keeps it interesting and he just fucking kicks ass. This guy is kind of about as generic as as white bread, and it just kind of drags it down a little bit. But the songs are still there. The songwriting, the choruses, like how catchy they are. So, it's still good. I think this is the best. And I know in some of the circles that some of the message boards I'm on, or, different groups on Facebook and stuff, when anytime somebody brings up this, they're just like, yeah, to me, I'll be listening to this 25 years from now and thinking, oh my God, that's such a classic album. Songs like Dry Bones I'm saying it right now and I got it running through my head. So these guys definitely, to take Nick's, saying that there's kind of lightning in a bottle on this one. Whereas the ones before it, I do like now, but they're not as strong as this. I think that everything just came together perfectly with this. So,
I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I'm bashing the shit out of this. It's fucking good. It's just really good. It's just, I don't know. It's just like what, again, just like thrash. But I think it way more than thrash. It's just not my jam.
Yeah.
But I fucking it's like I would give it a 7 out of 10. It's not bad. If I saw it, I'd even buy it out of the scuffed CD bin. If I had the used bin for $5.99, fuck yeah, let's go.
That's a ringing endorsement.
No, but well, you got your last one, Pat.
Round 3.
All right. So this album, this is a band I'd heard of, but didn't know anything about. And then again, this was a total internet based buy based on the hype of when this album came out in 2005. Everybody was talking about it, and I'd heard the name but didn't own anything by this band, and bought it and was like floored at, you know, this complete thing. I thought I thought the production was a little thin, but overall, I mean, I just thought this album was great, and I realized why everyone was talking about it, and that's Ireland's Primordial, The Gathering Wilderness. I hadn't heard anything like it, you know, to that point. I bought probably within the first 6 months of getting this album, I bought everything all the way back, you know, that they'd come out with, and since then became a fan to where, you know, I'm always going to pre-order the album when it comes out, even though I would say the 2 albums following this are still excellent albums. After that, they started to kind of maybe become a little samey or decline a bit, not like Amon Amarth, but just not as interesting to me. Coffin Ships, obviously, I think that was talked about in a previous episode, but probably if there was a trademark song for Primordial, to me, that's it. Just this album, The Golden Spiral, I mean, you know, it's an album I can put on anytime, and I'm always taken back to when I first heard it and just the impact it had on me with that style. Seeing them live a couple years, well, probably about 5-6 years after this came out, blew me away. Top 5 show I've ever seen. Had never seen anything quite that incendiary, and just like what seemed like real emotion coming from the stage, just like, I was like, holy shit, you know, I'm witnessing something here. I'm witnessing a what's the term you like, Nick, for a show? You're witnessing
that Rocky Dennis likes ritual.
A ritual. Yeah, it was just fucking awesome. And I know some people that live in Ohio think they're really fucking boring, but to me they're exciting because I've never heard another band like this. You know,
No one sounds like them.
You know, no.
Like
to me, I would say, like, to me, the ideal tour would be them and Enslaved, because they kind of cross a lot of boundaries, a lot of genres with what they've done over their career. And, you know, it's just, it's the feel they have. They really do remind me of Enslaved, not how they sound, but how they've changed over time, and, you know, the different elements they've added.
I'm with you. I bought this probably a week or 2 after it came out, just hearing about it. And I remember the first time I hit play in my car, and just when it came on, it was like, just I think I pulled over actually on the road and just sat there, just stopped and listened to the whole goddamn album. Just turned the car off, let the auxiliary power go, and just sat there and listened, because it completely floored me. Again, yeah, the production is bizarre, but it works 100%. I was fortunate enough to fly out to the first Heathen Crusade that they played their first ever US show, along with Moonstar's first ever US show and Tearfing's first ever US show. It was like one of the best fucking weekends of my life. And Alan actually came into my hotel room and sat with me and my 4 friends who went through another board, just sat there and talked to us for 2 hours, just drinking a bottle of Captain Morgan. The next morning, we wake up at 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. actually. We left at 10 because it was like a one-day fest, and we had to get there, you know, start at noon. And this is like 10:30. I open up my door, and Alan is in his underwear, crawling on his hands and knees, like, "Hey, where the bloody fuck is room 203, man?" Like, it's down the hall. Like, thanks. And then 6 hours later, he's signing posters. Awesome. And he was up there, and when they sang the Coffin Ships, he's like, you know, this is the first time in America. This is a song about Irish people leaving to America. This means a lot to us. And that 8.5 minutes of that performance, like you said, like emotion was just dripping out of the speakers. He's wrapping the cord around his neck, just going insane. Like, and the most insane I've ever heard clean. I mean, I guess I could call them clean vocals. They're not harsh vocals. They're somewhere in between. But I've never seen any bands give more emotion and just desire to play a fucking song in my life, and that will always just kill me when I think about it. You can find some YouTube videos of it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and then right behind it is the title track, "The Gathering Wilderness." That fucking
Oh
song
yeah.
rules
I would
so
say the
hard.
top three are Coffin Ships, Gathering Wilderness, Golden Spiral. Those to
Yeah.
me are the
And then the next album came out is seriously just a sliver, but beneath it.
yeah, no, that's I would even say at this point that's probably my go-to album, even though this was kind of my gateway and an instant classic. But yeah, that album.
This is Voice of Steel's top 5-10. This is probably top 30 albums for me. It's fucking great. Like, it changed my perspective on like the capability of just similar to Droog. I said they repeat riffs a lot, but they make it so hypnotic. You're just in the zone. And then Alan's lyrics are amazing, but also just his delivery. Just I've never heard anyone sound like that. And I don't know. So fuck you, Kip.
Yeah, we saw him in Charlotte, headlining, and the next night they were playing at Prague Power, and that was one of the first of many years that I didn't go. And I had a good friend that was big into Primordial, and he was going to the Charlotte show. And then at the show, he was like, "Fuck it, I'm going to Prague Power tomorrow night just to see him again." And he said at the Prague Power crowd, since you got Prague and you got Power and you got a lot of fantasy type themes, when he introduced the Coffin Ships, he made some commentary about fantasy, whatever. And then he just said, he was just like, how he does with the mic, something about, you want to know reality, this is reality. And they went into the Coffin Ships, and he said just fucking floored him 2 nights in a row.
Jason?
I tried.
This CD Pat bought for me, and it's just another one of those in this group that I've warmed up to. You've talked about the Coffin Ships, great tune, and it's just one of those bands that I'm looking forward to in May.
Are they playing MDF?
Aren't they?
They're at Maryland Death Fest.
Well, yeah, weren't they announced for Wednesday?
No.
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 Who? Yeah. Okay, that's a different.
They're Thursday through Sunday sometime.
Okay.
This band try to be as nice as possible. Like, this band is like Voivod to me. I've tried so many times over the years. I know that this one album, it's not just you guys talking about the Coffin Ships. I see it all online. People are like Primordial. They're just this amazing band. Gathering Wilderness is a classic album. I think the one after was To the Nameless Dead.
Yes.
That is classic. And I'm like, okay. And I always like at least once a year, because like once a year I go back to Voivod to try, because a lot of the guys in Cleveland, massive fans of Voivod, and all right, I'll go back and I'll try. And every time, Jesus Christ, I just don't get it. And with this, I even listened to this. I was in the office alone today at work and had my earbuds in, and it's what it just, maybe it'll come across different live, maybe.
Oh, dude,
different, but
I am committing to fucking watching My Dying Bride, fucking the whole set. I'll be there with you.
Mm-hmm.
You give it to Primordial.
Yeah, no, I mean, because I know that it's going to be your thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'll watch Primordial. I'll check them out. And like, I listened to the Coffin Ships, and it was like 8 minutes in, and I was just like, when does the song start? It's like an intro. They're like 9-minute intros to me. Like, I just can't. Like, I pissed Nick off. He just left.
No. Something's going on.
No, but it's weird, man. It's just one of those things that you just don't get. And no matter how many times I listen to it, I'm just like, I just don't think it's good. for me. Like, I don't know. And but they're on that very short list where I'm constantly going back. I'm like, there's got to be something I'm missing, because I have a lot of respect for them, because I know a lot of people like them. And it's weird to say, because I know they're not a shit band. You know what I mean? Like, I know that they're great musicians, like Voivod. I know that they're good musicians. I just
it doesn't click with you, and you're just like, it does nothing for you.
And it's weird because they have so many albums out and they're pretty much all rated positively. It's like not just positively, but like really well. And I love Irish metal. I love all that. Like, everything about this band should be right up my alley. And this is the one album out of everything that was played. Whenever you mentioned this, I was like, it was like a double-edged sword, or it could have gone both ways. At first I was like, oh God, I don't want to, but then I was like, you know what, it's going to force me to listen to it again and to see if maybe it clicks this time. Look, I hated Gravedigger for years because I thought Chris Boltondoll's vocals were like Miss Piggy, and I just couldn't take it. I was like, this is shit. I had a buddy that was into them, and then one day I listened to whichever one, Tunes of War, or and it was like, boom, it just clicked, and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. Maybe that'll happen after seeing these guys live.
I'm optimistic that the live show will sell you.
100%. It's probably my favorite live band I've ever seen.
I mean, it could be like that. Look, not that I'm comparing these two bands, because I think this band is like way more to me respected, and I have a lot more respect for them. But it's kind of like everybody back in the day was like, you got to listen to Baroness. It's right up your alley. Never got into.
Kip, just so you know, Baroness almost made my list.
But I saw them live, and it kind of changed my opinion, because live, I was like, holy shit. Then I went back to the album, and it was like, okay, the album, there was something about it live that maybe that, how do you say the guy's name? Nament?
His Alan Averill.
Alan Averill, or AA.
Yeah.
The Magnathia, whatever the fuck he used to go by.
You guys get into his other, doesn't he have like that blood?
Yeah, he's
Dread Sovereign?
Blood Revolt, I think it is.
He does Dread Sovereign too, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you guys get into that at all?
Yeah, I got one of those Blood Revolt albums.
Yeah, the Blood Revolt, the first one, is the only one I ever got into from.
Kip, I'm gonna send you a link to a song on the second album, or not the second album, but the album after that. It's called Trader's Gate, and you might like that one. It's kind of more straightforward. Doesn't spend 2 minutes to get going.
I'll say this. His vocals, you could tell that he's pouring his heart out. Vocal. Like, I'll give it that. I don't think that he has the greatest voice, but at the same time, you could tell that there's a ton of emotion behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like Quorthon, where he just sounds like a dying pig. Even though I love Quorthon on those Viking albums, I love Bathory, but this guy, so that's my positive. I have respect for the band. They've been around for a long time. They got a respected name, and vocally. So yeah, maybe. I mean, look, I'm not bummed seeing them at Maryland Death Fest. I'm actually looking
intrigued a little bit. See,
I want to see everybody else's reaction. See if, like, because I know Randy, our buddy Randy, like, we message back and forth about this, and Randy says the same thing. He was like, dude, I just don't get it. It just goes over my head. So, but he's the other one I know.
Because like 5'6", that's why it goes over your head.
But yeah. So looking forward to the live show for sure. I know Pat will be staring at me the whole time.
No, I'll be transfixed. I might even be doing Falcon or Nick. There may be some tears involved. I don't know. I mean, and it just depends where we're at in the venue. Like, if I have to just do that thing where I make a beeline to get the fuck up there, because it's sometimes that happens where I'm watching something, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta be up there, because it, like,
Kip will be right behind you.
Yeah,
I
I'll
know.
be with them.
Larson will pave the way. Just
Well, actually, Randy's gonna pave the way.
Yeah.
We'll both pave the way.
If anything, I know Randy and I already kind of spoke about it, or texted back and forth, and like I said, what are you going to do during Primordial? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, but I'll definitely watch it. I'm interested. But I know, on a positive note, Jason's next album, I'm going to be absolutely total support for.
That's because it pretty much came from you, and it's just one of those black metal bands that you're probably thinking, why of all the black metal bands that you listen to, why is Jason magnetized to this band? And I have the most recent 20-year instant classic. This album came out last year. I mean, I'm basically, just new to this band. What else should I say? Oh, they have a COVID video. I've even put it on the NAR group page, just the entire show. And I mean, it almost brings me to tears. He's got a violin player. He brings in a female operatic vocalist, and just freaking blows me away. And this album just gives me joy, which is kind of weird because it is black metal, but it's fantastic. And I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce the band, even though it's 4 letters long. It's we're gonna sour.
I think it's sewer.
No, it cannot be sewer.
Yeah, if
No,
you look
let's not
at
do
according to
that.
the archives,
That does not translate well to
SEUR.
English, and that's the album right there.
Yes, I think it's
I have all 5 sour albums, and yeah, this is instant classic. This is a killer album. Love it. And it came out last year in 2022, and that is Origins. And by the way, Kip, they are from Scotland, which is next door to Ireland. Everything from Thin Lizzy.
Well, I think Nick said, because we spoke about this before, you said this is like the most straightforward of all of the
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I do agree with that. At the same time, I think it's still 100% classic soar. I do agree. I would say probably Forgotten Paths would be like the classic, but the more I listen to this, the more it's like on the level. It's just a little more accessible, a little easier.
That's the word. It's accessible black metal, and yeah.
Andy Marshall is, I mean, the guy's great.
Pretty good.
Andy Marshall's awesome. I'm looking up. Yeah, Fuoth is another great band, and then he was in a band called what was it? Or Askabal. They have one album that I own too. I didn't know it was the same guy when I started getting into sewer. But then I realized this is the same dude. The guy just pumps out fucking great stuff. He's a multi-instrumentalist that can do just about anything. I'm with Kip. I think I like the first 2 more. The third one kind of went down, but by down I mean A-. It went back up for the last 2. They've been freaking great. He makes 10-minute songs feel like 6. He's got a strong knack for that. Just like, oh shit, that was really, I just listened to 4 songs over 44 minutes and I feel like I barely got into this. Like, it's incredibly just the atmosphere that he builds is not like a lot of other bands. Blind buy for anything Andy Marshall's involved with forever. Awesome, man. I remember buying this sewer shirt when we went to HHR in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Or neck of the woods. And I have a hard time wearing that shirt just because I remember the back has like a full 2 paragraphs of lyrics on the back of it. It's just like such a doofus with like,
Plus, it's hot when the sun's burning down on your back, and you've got
all
like,
that
it
yeah,
sticks to you.
yeah. Such a great album, dude. I'm so happy you're getting into stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's awesome that you chose this because it makes me happy to see that Sewer is up your alley now.
Mhm.
Do you like the other 4?
I've listened to them all. Just I can't explain it why I'm attracted to this band and not others.
Well, I think it's, I mean, kind of like similar to Primordial, like they just scream Scottish like pride. There's a lot of like the instrumentation folky without being corny. The instrumentation that he uses, and just smell the passion from this dude coming out with through his music, and then especially around, you know, Scottish history and whatnot.
Mhm. No, it's another excellent pick. What did you think, Pat? Are you?
No, I like it. I mean, I bought this based on probably the last episode that we discussed him in, and I'm fairly certain I own Aura. But as I get all this shit straightened out up here, I'm going to go back and check that out because I know I own one of those first 2, but I just have to go back and revisit them. No, I like it. I think it's good. It's super quality. It's not something that moves me in the sense that Primordial does, but when I listen to it, I enjoy it. And I kind of agree with Nick. You know, the length of the songs, you don't really notice it. It's just like it flows through very quickly, very easily.
Yeah. No, this would be a good classic album. You know, kind of a good gateway album for people.
Yeah, because it's very accessible. It's not, you can say black metal, but it's not,
Mhm.
you know, it's not gonna.
Yeah. You know what? Now that I come to think of it, you know, I'm trying to push this on Josh, and I forget which one's track 3. I think it's track 3,
The Ancient Ones.
the ancient ones. And I pushed that on him, and he's like, "Dad, this is pretty good." So, you know, he's 20 years old, so
Yeah.
52-year-old his old man and the 20-year-old son are listening to
Sewer.
Order.
Well, there's that cool video of Sean Astin from Goonies and Lord of the Rings, and one of the guys from Lord of the Rings, I remember if it's one of the hobbits, Pip or Mary.
Gandalf.
What's that?
Gandalf.
Yeah. I think Billy Boyd, maybe. Anyway, whichever one is actually, I think, from Scotland, was telling him about it. So it's a really cool video where he's talking about it, and he's like, you know, you gotta check out this band, and then he says it in like a Scottish accent, and he was like, it's pronounced Soor. So that's the only reason I thought it. I kept saying Sayor.
Yeah.
Sorry, like I didn't know how to say it before that, but so I don't know. I guess it on archives it says it means free, and it says pronounced soar, so Seur, like soar, and it means free and unconstrained in Scottish Gaelic. So
It's like my balls, dude. My balls are sewer.
I'm now uncomfortable.
Go from Scotland to
The States.
The States.
Oh yeah.
Also there's a connection, and these 2 bands are very similar. They have a lot of very melodic guitar licks, blasting drum beats, but still not aggressive and like, you know, angry. It's more like it's the music comes from more of a place of passion for sure. And this guy, another one-man band for the most part, played drums on Sewer's 4th album, I believe. Might have been the 3rd. He played drums on the 3rd or 4th album. This dude is a complete beast. The fact that he can play the drums and the guitars and everything like this is mind-blowing. Actually, I got to see them too up into Olympia, Washington. It was a freaking awesome performance. This was
Did they
what's
play
that?
with Wolves in the Throne Room?
No, Wolves wasn't there. I can't remember the full lineup, but Wolves thankfully was not there. Maybe they were, but I just left because I've seen Wolves 1,000 times already. But this was a total blind buy. I was at Everyday Music, but the one that closed a couple of years ago. And I was down under the understock, like on my hands and knees going through stuff. And just I pulled this out. I'm like, what the fuck is this band? And there's an album called Kentucky. And then I pull it out. It's got a full black metal logo, and there's just a minor Photoshop.
Like it's like a superimposed
Yeah.
ghost of a coal
Photoshopped
mine.
over the Appalachians.
Over the valley.
You know, just
that cover rules. I love that fucking cover.
Panopticon, Kentucky. I'm like, the fuck is this? This is like, why does this look so black metal on Kentucky with a minor? So blind buy, used $8.99 maybe. So and then I get home and I put it on, and it's that same style as Sewer. So I'm interested what you have to say about it. And then all of a sudden, track 2 is a fucking bluegrass breakdown.
Yeah.
And then black metal, then bluegrass. So it's not, they're not intertwined later on. They actually started intertwining the music a little more. This is more metal, bluegrass. And as they went on, you start hearing some of the bluegrass intertwined into the metal. But similar to the Nocturnal Mortem, and yeah, it's one of those first album, another one of those albums that I bought for the first time. I'm like, I've never heard anything like this. What the fuck am I listening to? Give me more. And I bought everything since, and stuff previous. And he hasn't released a shit album, let me tell you that. I don't have the newest one because the album is only on vinyl. I guess if you want the CD, you have to buy the vinyl as well. What label's doing that? They just did the last.
That's Bindrune.
Yeah, Bindrune. They did
the guy from Worm Gear, Marty Ritkonen.
Yeah, I got the new Nick Chotchwin or whatever that is, and I didn't realize I thought I was getting the CD, but it came with the vinyl, and the CD came with it, but it was just a little slipcase CD. So I still haven't heard the newest one, but I'm sure it's great. But yeah, Austin Lunn is a genius in my opinion. He also has a brewery called Heathen Heart Brewing up in Minnesota. He was from down in this area, and then he moved up to Minnesota like 10 years ago. He's another guy just full of passion. This is all about Kentucky minor rights in the 1910s or whatever. He talks about a lot in his liner notes about the depression he goes through in life, and that his wife saved him from out of a bad bout of depression, and he talks about mental health all the time. And I don't know, he's just seems like a really cool guy, and I don't know, that's my spiel.
Easily the most unique album out of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Just I now know what black metal bluegrass sounds like. Just you know, and as I was listening to it, I'm like, how does this work? How do you put
it works?
And it does. That's the weird part. How do you put this brand of music together with bluegrass? He fuses it, and it actually works. And I've actually listened to it more than once. I think this is another one of those where I'm considering purchasing it. It's way unique.
Yeah.
And then when that worker song came up,
Oh, yeah.
which side are you on?
Coal miners, yeah.
Which side are you on?
There you
I know I've talked about Dropkick Murphys before because they played that song. And now, because of that song, now I'm connecting Panopticon with the Dropkick Murphys. And, I think I'm the only one here that likes that band.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just shut Nick out. I mean,
I like Drop. I don't. They're fine. They're fine, Jason. But do you hear what I'm talking about? How like the songs are kind of a lot of just blistering black metal, and then they're all 8 to 10 minutes long, and then you get that melodic hook that comes over the top of it, and
then that bluegrass interlude in between. It just works. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's out of everything here, easily my surprise of the episode. It's just that's one of a kind. Is there any other bands doing black metal bluegrass?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense because I remember I didn't get into this band till Roads to the North. So that was the first album I bought, and then Kentucky was the second. And when I listened to it, I fucking loved it because I love that kind of, like, I wouldn't say I love, but I really enjoy that kind of authentic sounding bluegrass. Because I remember when the documentary Harlan County, USA came out, I watched it and I immediately went and bought the soundtrack to it because it's got all that stuff on it, all the minor rights, all those songs about coal disasters and that kind of shit. And I remember when I listened to it, I was like, it makes sense, kind of thinking about, what people think black metal should be about, which is about your, it's not uncommon, obviously, for your natural environment and whatever the nationalism is of your area. So to me, once I read about who the guy was and why he was doing it, it totally made sense to me. I was like, well, why wouldn't there be like a bluegrass black metal band from Kentucky?
100%.
Yeah, this is the first one I ever heard about, and I would say it's a classic because it seems to be, I mean, everybody was just going nuts over it, and they still do. I love it a lot. It's weird. My grandma on my dad's side, his mom was born in Hazard, or around Hazard, Kentucky, which is just right above Harlan County.
Yeah.
And my grandfather, my dad's dad, his family is from West Virginia, and there's all coal miners, in both sides. And it's weird. I grew up just on that side of the family. There was a lot of hillbilly music, a lot of bluegrass, that I grew up loving and still love it to this day. And it was cool to hear it kind of melded, with black metal, but not, it doesn't come off as like a novelty. It's actually good. And this is one band that should be much bigger than what they are. I think Panopticon blows a lot of it, like, Wolves in the Throne Room and stuff like that. I think this guy should be a hell of a lot bigger. And Kentucky is absolutely a classic as far as I'm concerned. In a lot of band, you heard like Japanese, you get Psy doing stuff, which is kind of weird, but there's like black metal in it. Then you got like Middle Eastern black metal bands, and then then you got like the Scottish folk black, with Soar, and there's like Irish black metal and Icelandic black metal, and now you got Native American, isn't it? Like that
Black Braid
kind of doing stuff, which I think is cool. But this is really cool because it does have that connection to like Irish and Scottish folk, especially with the Appalachians and the bluegrass and stuff like that, just the history there. But this is, if you're going to get one album that's like this in terms of some kind of like US folk black metal, Kentucky would be the one to go to. I think it's
All right.
so.
I'm obviously 3 for 3 tonight. It's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to my last one. This just blew me away. The first time I heard this band, my God, was in the MySpace days, and they had a song called Eastern Woman. And it was so fucking catchy. And it was just everything I love about kind of doom 70s sounding stuff. But I just thought, when I heard that, I thought, dude, if this song was on the radio, it would just be massive. If
it was on the radio, would you change the channel?
No, I would turn it up.
I wouldn't either.
And so this is their first full-length album. Came out in 2011. And I have literally numerous copies of it. I bought it a lot of it was on the Church Within records back in the day. I think every song is just incredible. I think vocally, yes, it does. Theo Mendel's vocals are kind of like Ozzy. Obviously, there's like a nod to that, taking their name Orchid from a Sabbath song. There's a lot of similarities there. But they do it, for me, it's not just, they don't rip Sabbath off to the point where I think it's just unlistenable. Like, to me, they're just very convincing in taking that kind of 70s Sabbath vibe, and they just do it well. And it just sounds like if somehow 70s Sabbath were still writing albums, this is what it would sound like. And that's Orchid, Capricorn. I can't say enough about this. I've listened to this probably like Nick, like you said, 100 times or more. I mean, these guys are just from San Francisco. Great band. They haven't put something out since 2015. There was an EP full length in 2013. They put out a message on Facebook not too long ago that said, "Hey, we're back
We're recording or something," or
that it still says active. Oh man, sorry. It says active on Metal Archives, but they have a new drummer and a new guitar player. So I don't know if that's going to how that's going to bode with a new album. But my God, that was a while ago. So it's kind of like King Diamond at this point saying that they're going to release a new album and they got new material coming out. And then I haven't heard anything since. So it's just Keith Nickel and Theo. Those are the two main guys, excuse me, that are still in the band. The drummer, Carter, went to another band called The Watchers, and Mark Thomas Baker, the guitar player, was actually in an old thrash metal band called Rabid from Sacramento. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, Jason. They only had like
that was his big problem. He's from Sacramento, so he's already doomed from the beginning.
But he's great, and
he's no Matt Fox.
no bitter end.
No bitter end, baby.
But yeah, so I'm curious to see, to hear what they come up with. But Capricorn is, I think, a classic of the genre. Absolutely. And I rarely hear people complain. I rarely hear people say that they're just a straight Sabbath ripoff and that's it. Like, we're not listening to them. It's a Sabbath ripoff. Like, I hear people just say, if Sabbath was to continue from the 70s and into now, these are the albums. Like, this is what it would likely sound like. And
I don't think
I think Nick might say that.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're a Sabbath ripoff because they actually have a decent vocalist.
Yeah, I want these guys to like throw out a multi-album Sabbath cover, because I'm kind of with Nick. I'm really not a big Ozzy guy. Dude, you take this vocalist and you put him in Sabbath. I would love to hear their covers of Sabbath. That would be cool.
Yeah.
And
You just lost.
We're like, you guys are crazy. Yeah. You guys are nuts.
See, I think they are a total Sabbath ripoff, but
no,
you think they're a good Sabbath ripoff?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're more listenable than 70s Sabbath to me.
It's obviously there's a formula there 70s Sabbath created, and that's what they're going for. It's kind of it's hypocritical of me because I know like with the band Gruesome that I shit
You
on
don't- yeah.
so much because it's just a death ripoff and the name and the logo.
Even the artwork for each album is like,
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
this is kind of akin to that because it's, you know, they're taking it from Orchid off of Reality, that song. Um everything is just soaked in 70s, you know, the
Well,
that sound.
well, yeah, and then they got the song titles. One of the songs has funeral in it, and one of the other songs has electric in it.
Yeah, Electric Father, Black Funeral, Capricorn Heights behind it, you know. So it's like they're clearly, you know, writing. I mean, it's, you know, great.
yeah. That looks like
That
if Sabbath was in 2010.
Yeah, those are the two guys. That's Theo, the singer, then the bass player, Keith Carter, the drummer. He's in a band called The Watchers now, and then Mark Thomas Baker. But yeah, I mean, killer stuff. I recommend it to anyone that likes. I know Nuclear Blast years ago, when they were starting to kind of get a little more known. Nuclear Blast put out kind of like a compilation of a lot of their EPs and stuff. Well, actually, it's Capricorn and Through the Devil's Doorway. It's the Zodiac Sessions that you can still get, and that actually has Eastern Woman on it. So it's the full Capricorn album, and then Through the Devil's Doorway. And this to me is untouchable for anybody that likes stoner doom type stuff. It's, I think, a flawless album. That's my piece. What about you, Pat?
No, I dig it because I got this probably around the time it came out because I was reading about it, about the one after it, and I'm fairly certain that EP that had Eastern Woman on it, I got it in some kind of downloadable fashion from whatever, you know. I don't think I own a physical copy of that. I'm pretty sure it was through however, you know, at that time. But no, I totally dig this band. And, you know, did I think, yeah, they're a Sabbath ripoff because they've got a couple songs that have a total nod to some Sabbath tunes. And yeah, to me, it does sound very reminiscent of Ozzy, even though it's not an Ozzy clone like the guy in Chevy that sounds just like Ozzy to me, or very close. Yeah, no complaints on this, and I would totally welcome anything new from them. Yeah, totally dig it.
The other band that had a total Ozzy clone was Summerland. Yeah,
Humorland, yeah.
yeah, that too Ozzy.
I'm gonna get Nick all the Chevy albums so he can enjoy.
I my God, that's a band somebody hasn't brought up. I think I have the
good reason. Someone hasn't brought that up in a long time.
Oh, Chevy is Canadian too, Nick.
From Nova Scotia.
Yeah, they might even play near Halifax.
Somewhere near Required Fields, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're near Fields.
I was really worried about this one in particular with Nick because I thought, dude, he's going to push play and just fucking despise it because the guy's going to sound too close to Ozzy.
What's weird is I didn't realize that Larson didn't have any affinity for Ozzy Sabbath or a minimal.
No, I listen. I'll listen to it. If it's on the radio, I'm not going to change it. You know? No, but I mean, yeah, you know, I guess in the back of my brain, I just compare the two Dio Sabbath albums with Ozzy and
realize the first 6 albums totally fucking rule. Yeah, I'll give it to you. Heaven and Hell and the Mob Rules are better than Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy. No problem. I might even say they're on par with the debut. But
So Kip,
But no.
Kip, you want good news? Is I would rank this above Between the Buried and Me.
Yeah, I never thought that this would be your like in your wheelhouse, but
But if BT Bam got rid of the chugga chugga, then it would be below it.
even I know Jay is getting into more and more the desert, I mean Earthless, Caius, stuff like that. So I didn't know.
Oh, I'm there. I'm already there. I'm there and past that.
So
Those two bands in the past 3 years have just skyrocketed in my, in my tiers.
yeah, and this is different, but I think that it's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from. That's the one great thing about like stoner doom type stuff is all those bands. A lot of them can sound different, but I think they're close enough to each other that it's like I love Caius and then I love Orchid because they're all taking from like the same influence. They just have different directions they went with it. So, but this is an all-out classic as far as I'm concerned. So,
yeah,
The only album I didn't have from Caius is Wretch, and they just had it at the store yesterday for $8. So I picked up Wretch.
I'm not a fan of Wretch as much. In fact, tomorrow when I do the 92 episode with Joe, I'm going to be talking about blues. Because that is 92. I always forget. It's crazy looking at 1992 and all the albums that came out. It's going to be nigh impossible to get through like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But, Blues for the Red Sun is definitely a classic, absolute classic album.
But that was 31 years ago, so we couldn't put that in the
We couldn't put it in the list of instant classics because that would be way over the 20-year mark.
Or 22 for you.
So 22 for me. So yeah, I mean, as far as summarizing the whole episode here, I mean, I'm pretty much 8 for 9 on everybody else's 3 choices. So this was very enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm 9 for 9 because I own 7 of them, and then Kip got me the Hooded Menace. So the only one I don't own is the Witch Hazel, and in totality, I really like those last 3 songs. I said I grew to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I know now that Nick and Jason will be with a regular schedule coming up here, we can get back to doing these a little more often.
I think what did we decide we're going to do? Our favorite lo-fi black metal albums.
I don't mind doing a black metal one. We can do like our favorite.
It has to be lo-fi, like real buzzsaw shit.
Yeah. Well,
Larson is gonna love it.
I'm totally, yeah. I was gonna say I'm pretty much limited on the black metal. Everything that you've heard, that I've mentioned, you guys are on top of it. So
yeah,
unless,
your favorite 3 worst produced albums.
Unless if there's somebody combining Lawrence Welk with black metal, maybe that's something I need to hear.
Yeah, that would be from North Dakota, since Lawrence Welk is North Dakota.
Oh, is he really?
Yes, he is.
Oh,
Strasburg, North Dakota.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that was my grandfather's musician of choice. God rest his soul, passed away in 1994.
Yeah, give me the coal mining bluegrass any day.
If that band doesn't exist, the 4 of us are starting it. Lawrence Welk black metal, dude.
We'll just call it Lawrence Black.
Nick, I don't know, you jokingly just said an idea for an episode, but I kind of like the idea of it. Your favorite worst produced album. I know there's
Hey.
albums that I love that I'm like, God, dude, the production just stinks.
I know.
Leave scars.
Oh my God, yeah. There's ones.
I mean, I hardly listen to it for that reason alone, but it's like, I love what's before it. I love what's after it. And I like that album, but if I turn it on, I'm like, I can't fucking listen to this.
I'm writing that down because that's a good idea. I like that.
Oh, I already know what I'm gonna make you guys listen to.
No, that's I know there's ones that I always, God, I would have to go through, but that would be a good one to choose 3 and force each other to listen to some shitty produced albums, but you know, quality.
That sounds fun.
That doesn't sound like fun.
The
Like,
songs,
we're-
the songs are great, but the fucking production is just so trash.
Larson will be like, if this came on the radio, I would turn it off.
I would turn it off.
Or I would think one of my speakers was blown and the other one
Boy,
wasn't working. You know,
ended up underwater.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's think of that. I mean, you guys can come up with any ideas. That's fine. This is the one Nick just mentioned, and I'm going with that because I think that would be a fun episode to do. But
I got another one already in the list for it.
but other than that, do it again here real soon.
Yeah. 4, 5, 6 months. 6 months.
Yep.
See you in January.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right.
Peace out.
All right.